tar on the ground. These are all bugs. Take a look at this. If you're on Mackinac, this is Mackinac City, but these are all bugs. Little bugs that are flying around everywhere in Mackinac City. Take a look right here on the tables, everywhere. That big pile of dirt right there, that is the bugs. Not sure what kind of bugs, I'm not an expert, but little gnats everywhere. This is what you're seeing on the ground. Yeah. If you're headed to Mackinac City today or Mackinac Island, be careful because that is what you're going to see. Have a good day, everybody.
Welcome to Times and Signs. You can follow us on Facebook and we're also on Rumble. We also encourage you to join our Telegram and also see the updated website. Come out of her, my people, Revelation 18:4. Now is the time for salvation, 2 Corinthians 6:2. The truth shall set you free, John 8:32. We bring it to you, facts. We are Times and Signs. You can count on us giving information. Psalms 23:4-6. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, and thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, and my cup runneth over. Remember Acts 4:12, there is salvation any other, for there is none other name in heaven given among men whereby we must be saved. Yeshua Jesus, are you ready? I'm Abba, and welcome to Times and Signs. And yes, we're in the end times. Are you ready? 1 Peter 3:15. Welcome to Times and Signs. And 2 Timothy 4:18, the Lord will rescue me from every evil deed and bring me safely into his heavenly kingdom. To him be glory forever and ever. Amen. 2 Corinthians 5:17, therefore if anyone is in Christ, he's the new creation, and old things are passed away. Please subscribe.
Anthony, thanks. Local Satanists are going after the city, saying their First Amendment rights are being violated. This group alleges they've been banned from saying "Hail Satan" at city council meetings. The lawsuit says the city violated their rights as a religious group by excluding disfavored minority faiths from giving an invocation at the start of meetings. The group says more than 50 local religious groups have given invocations in front of city council since the Satanic Temple, Illinois, first inquired about giving one back in December of 2019.
We began with that lifting of the precautionary shelter-in-place order near Bel Air. It was issued after a large fire at a metal plating facility. The fire started around 4:30 this morning on Royalton Street and Elm Street in southwest Houston. KPRC 2's Rochelle Turner is live there now. Rochelle?
And Bill, fire crews just left the scene moments ago. They spent over 12 hours making sure there was no hot spots and working with the EPA to monitor the air. Right now, a private contractor is here cleaning up. You can still smell some of the fumes from the fire. The good news is that no one got hurt. This drone video from Pearland Police shows what's left of high-tech finishings. A metal planting facility in southwest Houston that went up in flames early this morning.
Earlier, maybe around 10 or hitting 9:30-ish, I even went to my AC thermostat and I was like, what's going on? I was like, it's something I smell burning. So I was like, it's not me. So I literally went outside and I did smell like a burning type of thing that you're literally alarmed by it.
Leslie Alvarez lives half a block from the facility and took precautions.
So I did have my AC off because, you never know what's really going on.
Some residents in the area felt sick from the smoke.
My mom said she actually got lightheaded this morning just from the fumes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
How are you feeling now?
I think we feel okay now. The smoke has gone away.
Chief Pena said a shelter-in-place was issued because of the particulates released by the smoke, which can cause respiratory irritation if people inhale the smoke.
The readings that we're getting right now, in conjunction with the EPA, are within normal
limits. Well, in my view, you've been paying far too much for your energy bills for the last 20 years. Yes, you've been subsidising the onshore and offshore wind energy industry. And now, of course, there are great demands for cleaner waters and fewer sewage discharges into our rivers and seas, all of which I totally agree with. But guess who is going to be picking up the bill? Well, a report out recently suggests that actually there's another big levy going on your bills, and this would be to do with hydrogen. Well, Jack Richardson is head of energy and climate at the think tank Onward. Hydrogen, Jack, as I understand hydrogen, it doesn't have the density to be useful in applications like, for example, cars or tractors. And for home use, it's highly explosive.
Well, first of all, thanks very much for having me on. I'll start. So last year, the government reacted to the Russian invasion of Ukraine by basically saying we need to produce a lot more energy in the UK. Part of that was having a new 10 gigawatts of hydrogen production by 2030. Hydrogen is actually quite useful for a lot of things, including energy security. It can help us get the most out of renewables. So instead of paying wind farms to switch off, they produce hydrogen, which can be used as gas.
This is the idea, is that these vast arrays of offshore wind farms in the North Sea will send their electricity in and will use that to convert into hydrogen.
Yes, I mean, it can use that as a gas, and it won't replace fossil fuel gas in all applications, but it can definitely be helpful in making our energy system more resilient, so we can burn that hydrogen later for power. We could use it in our industry to make our industry a bit more competitive, especially in markets that are placing a premium on greenness. And then also it can help us to to displace some of the foreign imports of gas from countries
and
like
so
Qatar
therefore
and
it's
America.
part of the government's net zero agenda.
It is, but it's also part of our energy security agenda, a small part of both. But what we said in our report is that the government wants to pay for this 10 gigawatts of hydrogen production by 2030 through a new policy levy on bills. Now, what we're saying is we estimated that would cost about £118 per year from 2030.
So let's just slow down. That's it.
Sure.
£118 a year on every one of your household bills. Hang on, Jack Richardson. Despite my scepticism about some of its uses, if it's got uses in industry, why have any subsidy at all?
So it's a new industry, and the government wants to ramp it up very fast, and it wants to secure our energy supplies and have new sources of domestic energy production. I think that's right, and I think we do definitely need hydrogen. But what we're saying is households won't be using it for reasons like you said earlier.
Yeah.
It's not very economical to use as home heating. You can't have a like-for-like replacement for fossil fuel gas.
It is potentially quite dangerous.
But I think it can definitely be used for things like industrial decarbonisation.
Okay.
Heavy industry do really want that hydrogen because it can help them avoid carbon pricing. Now, I think it is right that our industry pays for its pollution. I think
I think households have been burdened too much already, and this idea that ordinary, struggling folk, in many cases, should be handing money over to rich corporations and their shareholders, I find totally and utterly objectionable. But the government's set on this course, is it?
Yeah, and I do think it's right that we have this 10 gigawatts of hydrogen production target.
Okay.
Hydrogen is very useful for a lot of things. I don't think home heating is one of them. But what we said in the report is instead of charging households, essentially, if I may rewind, is the government set this target, but the Treasury doesn't want to pay for it. Therefore, it's going to put it on everyone's energy bills. No matter how rich or how poor you are, you all pay the same rate, depending on how much energy you consume, basically. Actually, poorer people tend to consume more energy because they're less likely to be able to upgrade their home and make their homes more energy efficient. So fuel-poor people will be paying a levy and then also using more energy.
I mean, recent reports suggesting that for the average, semi-detached house to come up, perhaps built in the 30s or whatever it may be, to come up to speed where the government wants people to be could cost up to £15,000 per household. I mean, much of this is totally unrealistic, isn't it?
Well, but there's also some households which only need to spend less than £1,000 or something. I think the best way to help people help themselves to upgrade their homes, which is a good thing, it means that they'll use less energy, have lower energy bills, be warmer, is through tax breaks, essentially. So maybe a bit like there's a cycle to work scheme where you can pay monthly out of your pay packet, tax-free, and finance it over a certain period of time. Maybe we can do that for home upgrades too. But I think the important thing, why I've come on today, is to say that household bills are not the place to be paying for
and I
hydrogen.
get that point, because the beneficiaries won't be households anyway. It will be heavy industry that will use it, and I get the logic of that, absolutely, and
some breaking news right now at 5 o'clock. Evacuations currently underway in Riverside County as fire crews try to get the upper hand on a vegetation fire.
And assignment editor Mike Rogers is at the desk now. He's been looking at this situation. Mike, how big is this fire?
Yeah, well, we're still getting updated numbers from the CAL FIRE Riverside County Fire Department out there. Last estimate was about 40 acres. We'll show you some video from early on in this fire. You can see it's really that low vegetation that just kind of takes off on the hillside there, all that dry grass that we've been talking about over the last, a couple weeks as our hillsides start to dry out. But you can see this, and just recently, within the last about 15-20 minutes or so, is when these evacuation orders were given. Now, I want to come into my computer here. I actually have a time lapse that I'm going to show you from one of the wildfire cameras there, and you can see that smoke, pretty thick smoke billowing up there. But as the time goes on, it slowly starts to get less. So hopefully they're able to get the upper hand. A lot of that right now is because of the aircraft that are up there. You can see, and really even since those evacuation orders were lifted, they really intensified the number of aircraft that are on this fire. Now, the evacuation orders and warnings, that's the important part here. We're talking about this development here. It's west of Warren Road and north of Cottonwood Avenue. So that area is under mandatory evacuations. The area to the south of it, just down here, is under voluntary evacuations. Obviously, this area to the south, not as heavily populated, but there is a subdivision here that they are worried about. You can see this is what they call the lead plane, or the air TAC, that is kind of monitoring the situation. We also have some tankers that are just starting to develop out there as well. So we're going to continue to keep an eye on this situation. We just dispatched SkyCal out there as well. So as soon as Desmond gets overhead, we'll have a report from him.
All right, thanks so much for that information,
Governor Whitmer
Mike.
signed off on a red flag law today in Oakland County, completing a work on a series of gun control bills. Gun violence advocates and survivors were on hand and praised the action that the governor and legislature have taken. But political reporter Rick Alvin here to tell us that the laws won't be enforced just yet. Rick.
Right, and that's right. All the bills in the package have received everything they need to go into place except immediate effect. I'll tell you why that's so important in just a moment. But first, the governor and others said today that with the implementation of those bills signed today, pardon me, that would allow a judge to order firearms removed from someone believed to be in danger of harming themselves or others, along with previously signed bills that address safe storage and background checks. Deaths due to suicide, mass shootings, and more can be reduced.
With extreme risk protection orders, we have a mechanism to step in and save lives. Extreme risk protection orders also will reduce suicides. People often see warning signs of suicidal ideation in those that they are close to, and now they can take action to keep them safe. We will become the 21st state to enact extreme risk protection orders. We've seen these other states across this nation take this action, states that are surprising to some, like Indiana and Florida. They're reducing firearm suicide rate by 7.5% in Indiana alone, as one example, saving hundreds of lives.
So, as we said at the top of this, the whole package of bills is now ready to be put into action, but for immediate effect. That's the process by which 2/3 or 26 members in the Senate must agree to have the bills go in place almost as soon as they are signed. These bills and others like the Democrat plan to move up next year's presidential primary won't take effect until 90 days after the Senate adjourns. And what about budget bills now being negotiated? Is it possible those too could pass but would have to wait for implementation? That's all speculation, just like the speculation that in order to get some of these bills moving more quickly, Democrats in charge of the Senate could adjourn early, thereby making their bills go into effect sooner than waiting until the traditional end of December adjournment. Now, does any of that happen? Well, that's something
Prince George's County Police tell us they arrested 2 teens accused of trying to kill a 14-year-old boy on a bus. You can see it all going down on this video.
Yeah, and the details are pretty frightening. These 3 boys right here wearing masks and hoodies pulled over their heads. They got into a school bus in Oxon Hill. They pushed on by the driver, went right up to a middle schooler, put the gun to his chest and pulled the trigger 3 times. Thankfully, nothing happened though because the gun jammed. Now, with 2 suspects facing charges tonight, investigators tell us they're looking for the 3rd person in that video.
Yeah, they don't want this to happen again. Scott Broom is in Prince George's County, where the mother of a boy who was attacked says she and her son are still terrorized.
The mother, whose son was attacked on a school bus at this intersection back on May 1st, asked us not to use her name.
My baby looked at me when he got off the bus and he said, "Mom, I'm not getting on no bus no more."
She shared with the faith community her raw emotions last night after the caught-on-camera attempted murder of her son on a Prince George's County school bus. Investigators say the gun misfired after being held to her son's head.
He's a star football player. He's a first-place wrestling champ. We have not been able to go back home. I don't feel safe. He doesn't feel safe.
Today, Prince George's County Police announced that 2 of the 3 juveniles caught on camera during that school bus attack have been arrested and charged as adults. But that leaves a 3rd suspect still loose. A reward is being offered. Police have not said whether they recovered a gun in the case. Now, this attack happened here on May 1st when the school bus pulled up at the intersection of Iverson Street and Sutler Drive to make its last stop of the day. That's when the attackers forced their way on the bus and ran towards the only passenger, a 14-year-old boy. Police said a gun was held to the victim's head, but it misfired repeatedly before the attackers then beat the boy and fled.
Is one incident of many incidents.
Martin Diggs, the president of the union representing school bus drivers, says there's an epidemic of fighting and violence on buses that must be brought under control. State's Attorney Aisha Brayboy said she favors technology to screen kids for weapons.
That's something that we have to think about, whether or not it's worth it to program it in the budget, and I think it is.
Prince George's County school officials told me today they've responded with training sessions for transportation supervisors and school security staff, with a promise to inform drivers on how to respond if something similar happens. The boys who've been arrested are aged 14 and 15. They are now charged as adults with attempted first and second degree murder. They are being held in juvenile custody. There's a court hearing scheduled for them Friday. In Oxon Hill, Scott Broom, WUSA 9.
We've been following the developing news Sal just talked about from the South Bay after what the CHP is now calling a series of crashes on the freeway early this morning.
KTVU's Bailey O'Carroll has been there all morning long, right near the area where the crashes happened, and she's live now with an update. Bailey?
Good morning. We have learned that those 3 people who were killed in this crash were pedestrians. The scene, of course, still very active behind me here in these northbound lanes. You can see right now tow trucks are here working to get this scene cleared, working to get the 6 vehicles who were involved in this crash in the northbound lanes cleaned up really as soon as they can to help get these lanes reopened and alleviate some of that traffic on this morning commute. But we have learned just moments ago that what prompted this crash here along Highway 101 was a chain reaction that started with a pickup truck. We do see only really one pickup truck here on the scene, which is a red one. Now, 5 other cars, of course, were involved here in the northbound lanes. Another car was involved in the southbound lanes. Officials have not told us much about that car. It is being treated as a separate crash, though. That car in the southbound lanes, we are told, did hit 2 pedestrians who got out of their car. Here's what CHP had to say about that.
That vehicle, like we have, as they were traveling southbound, the 2 pedestrians came over the wall and ended up within the number 1 lane. I don't know if that driver at that time swerved to avoid them or just struck the pedestrians at that time.
Now, all 3 of the people who were killed here were pedestrians, meaning that they did get out of their cars. Officials don't know, of course, why they got out of their cars, but we do know that they were considered pedestrians, and all 3 were pronounced dead at the scene here. Now, 5 other people separate from those 3 were taken to the hospital. The extent of their injuries is unknown at this moment, but CHP working to get this scene here cleared as soon as they possibly can. They do estimate that both sides of this freeway will be cleared in about 2 hours. We will remain on scene here and bring you any new information as soon as we learn it. Reporting live in Sunnyvale, I'm Bailey O'Carroll.
Mother Nature
KTVU,
forces
Fox
Mexico City's international airport to close over the weekend. We're not talking high winds here. This was ash from a nearby volcano which was erupting Saturday morning. The volcano has been active since 1994 and is considered to be one of the most dangerous in Latin America. That airport, by the way, did reopen since, but they are keeping an eye on that.
Some streets in the Mexican city of Puebla are covered in volcanic ash from the volcano known locally as El Popo. The volcano rumbled to life last week and has been spewing gases, smoke, and ash. Flights have been temporarily stopped over the weekend, and officials have closed schools until further notice. The volcano is located about 45 miles southeast of Mexico City. No evacuations have been ordered, but a team is closely monitoring the volcano's activity.
The erupting El Popo volcano disrupted travel across Mexico today. The ash-filled skies forced Mexico City's Benito Juarez International to shut down today. The closure lasted several hours. Many flights were delayed or canceled. The airport eventually reopened after the runway was cleared. An airport operated by the military also suspended operations. El Popo has been active since 1994 and is considered one of the most dangerous volcanoes in Latin America.
All right. Well, Hello, I'm Mark Brown. Get more great ABC7 content by clicking the subscribe button for our YouTube channel and download the ABC7 Los Angeles streaming app on Fire TV, Android TV, Apple TV, and Roku to watch on your TV.